Now, I will give a little background about the way in which the composition of the symbol dawn has proceeded. It is important. See, starting from 1916, the first written draft which is available is dated August 1916. Starting from that till 1950, for those 35 years roughly, Savitri's first draft, first canto, had gone through roughly 40 drafts, 40. He was writing. That is why you see such density in that, such condensation in that, you see. And so many things kind of packed in 341 lines, you see. So that is the kind of a density. So we'll have a little look at that. The earlier drafts of Savitri made roughly during the 15 years from 1930. See, earlier drafts. Now I am skipping from 1916 to 1930. But the relevant drafts, you can start from 1930 onward. The earlier drafts of Savitri, made roughly during the 15 years from 1930, acquired the definite focus of the material powers resisting spiritual possibilities that must enter into the dynamics of operation in this world. What are the material powers? Why they are opposing the spiritual possibilities? That is what is being actually discussed in these drafts from 1930 to roughly 1944, you see. Enter into the dynamics of operation in this world. The dragon, I am quoting now here from the Record of Yoga, 1927. She will rise the four powers which oppose the divine manifestation: the dragon, the sphinx, the knight, the rock. He has named them the dragon, the sphinx, the knight, the rock. The dragon who preserve the old law, the sphinx of eternal questioning. She keeps on questioning sphinx. Knight, eternal negation. She'll keep on opposing and opposing and opposing. Knight. And the rock of the eternal inertia represent these material powers. These are the material powers, these four: dragon, sphinx, knight, rock. These material powers are opposing the entry of spiritual possibilities in this creation. There is a further specificity, not of the general spirit of night, but of the mind of night. You see, we are seeing that in the earlier drafts, Shivandu had written, at least in 3 drafts, she had written the phrase across the path of divine. They used foreboding mind of night. This is what we got. Instead of mind of night, the previous 3 drafts had the spirit of night. And then he changed the spirit of night to mind of night, which is very significant kind of a change in the context of these 4 powers: the dragon, the sphinx, the knight, the rock. Significant power. After, yes.
Still, why mind?
Yeah, we are coming to that. Mind of night, obstructing the arrival of the divine event. The issue involved is a cosmic issue, obviously, not Savitri's personal, but the cosmic issue, which may get reflected in one way or the other in the life of an individual. Basically, the whole problem which the symbol dawn is posing is a cosmic problem. But that is getting reflected now for action and execution in the life of an individual, that is Savitri. Individual, or in the universal working, such as the ugly Holocaust war. You see, that is the 1945, 1942, 41 Holocaust war. But most fundamentally, it is a problem of this creation itself. It is not the individual, or it is not a transitory moment. It is a problem, very basic problem of the creation itself. It is a problem of this creation itself. Its origin being in the inconscient void. The problem rises from the inconscient. In working out of operational details, this may be summarized as conservatism of the material negation. It holds back everything, material negation, inertia of matter. It is that which is holding back. In fact, this phrase, conservatism of the material negation, that is from the Life Divine, this phrase. There is constant repetition of the unconscious act. There is the prolongation of the unseen will. This is what we got in Savitri's lines on the very first page. But this has to end. The dawn symbol of Savitri, right at the beginning, assert the coming of the great light and truth and beauty and joy in this creation. What is the dawn? It is the arrival of these things in this creation. That is the dawn. Now, how the day will unfold, that is a separate issue. But how the dawn will come, that is what is being discussed in this symbol dawn and in Savitri. Now, the symbol dawn ran into some 40 drafts starting from the first in 1916. You can see how much attention he was giving to that thing. There were a couple of aspects in that. The first 5 opening lines corresponding to the period 1942-44. What the passage I am going to quote, corresponding to this one. The next 2 somewhat earlier, with the last line being back to 1936. Now, this one. It was the hour before the gods awake across the path of the divine event. Now, earlier, the abysm of the embodied infinite, whose fathomless zero occupied the world. See, the phrases are different. Fathomless zero occupied the huge forwarding spirit of night, alone in her unlit temple of immensity. Now we have got eternity, you see. Lay stretched mobile upon silence mind, a shadow spinning through a soulless void. Now, suddenly, this is kind of a jump. A shadow spinning through a soulless void. Soulless vast, earth field abandoned in the hologram of a mute inconscient semblance of the unknown, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. Forgetful of her spirit and her fate. The impassive skies were neutral, empty still. So you see, the earlier passage, you can see later on how it got expanded with the completeness which I got here. Now here, this phrase is the spirit of night, which got suddenly changed to mind of night. We have discussed it, but we'll see it again in a different context here. In the 3 earlier drafts, previous to this draft, this passage, the 5th line has the phrase, the spirit of night. This, under the sudden compelling force of inspiration, became in the next the mind of night. Actually, when he was copying the earlier draft, he wrote spirit, struck off that thing, and immediately made mind of night. He did not even complete the word spirit, he simply wrote spirit, struck it off. So, a kind of a compelling inspiration out there at that moment suddenly entering in, which made him change that kind of a thing, you see. That is the most important thing, you see. Actually, I got the facility on that thing also. See how he has struck that thing and immediately saying that thing. While suddenly the inspiration has entered and he has saying that thing. Yeah. So in the 3 earlier drafts of this passage before 1942, the line has the phrase the spirit of night. This, under the sudden compelling force of inspiration, became the mind of night. In the process of copying from the previous draft itself, the spirit of night turned into mind of night. And this is extremely significant. Whereas the spirit of night conveys the general individuality of the night. What do you mean by spirit of night? Each one has a kind of a spirit made up of our personality. You see, I mean, our individuality, the subtle physical is there, the mental is there, the vital is there, even psycho-spiritual is there. All these constitute our spirit, and it is that spirit which is also a part of our being. It is a kind of a reflection of ours in this subtle world, it's in the occult world, spirit. You see, in fact, that is what happens when a person dies. It is this spirit which kind of spreads around. The vital goes to the vital world, the mental goes to the mental world, the physical is dispersed, the subtle physical disappears like that. So it is the spirit which gets dissolved. Now it is the same spirit which sometimes people say as ghost. You see, after death, you see, spirit and ghost, they're kind of equivalent. The spirit of night, so it is that kind of a personality of night which is behind night. So here say, whereas the night or the spirit of night conveys the general individuality of the night, her total character, her subtle build-up, her physical, vital, mental, even psycho-spiritual personality, the mind of night pinpoints the exact occult yogic aspect. It is not the general spirit of night, mind of night, the specific character of mind. It is the mind which is important. Mind is the thing which gives a kind of a definiteness, a measure, a form, a personality, which remains intact. So it is that which is now coming in the way of the divine event. In fact, we see mind of night, we read that thing, pinpoints the exact occult yogic aspect. The truth is, even if night should disappear, her spirit would continue to be there. So it is not the spirit of it, continue to be there. But in the functionality of things, it is not the spirit of night, but the unconscious part of the stiff and stubborn physical mind. What is it actually governs the whole process? What is coming in the way? The unconscious part of the stiff and stubborn physical mind that comes into play. The problem is of the physical. The problem is this mind means formidable defiance to the higher forces working in the material creation. This is the bottom of the difficulties of transformation. But at the very bottom, there is Supreme Himself. Yes, this is the difficulty at the bottom. But below that also there is the Supreme. Now, I will interpret this phrase, the mind of night, which is becoming more and more explicit yogically for Sri Aurobindo. When he started, although not used, considering the mind of light, the physical receiving the supramental light and force, the physical mind receiving the supramental light and force. That is what he calls as the mind of light. The physical mind, the mind of the cell also, receiving the supramental light and force is the mind of light. Now this started happening from August 1938, when the supramental power started descending in his very physical. Light came in my head, light came in my throat, light came in my body, light came in my feet, all that. It started about that time, 1938, 8th August 1938, you see that. Now it is around that time he did not exactly coin the phrase mind of light, but that is what he meant. The mind of light became explicit in his last set of essays which he wrote in 1949 and 50, you see. the supramental manifestation, those 8 essays which he wrote for the bulletin, which he rather dictated for the bulletin. In those essays, he has described in great detail the mind of light. And he says that mind of light is the physical mind receiving the supramental light and force. And what is going to happen in the beginning is, it is the race governed by the mind of light which will come into play here. What he calls the intermediate race, the overman race, as he calls it. Not overmind, overman race. Shrom, mother's phrase, Shrom, you see. It is that will come here. It is that race which will build up then the Gnostic race, the divine race, the supramental race, you see. So the intermediate state is the mind of light. In other words, Sri Aurobindo felt it yogically necessary to have an intermediate step between mind and supermind and the mind of light to bring down the new creation here. So in other words, the mind of light is the mind receiving the supramental light and force. If you go by that definition, then we can understand that the mind of night is the mind which receives the powers from the night. If mind of light receives from supermind, mind of night receives the powers, all the dark powers from the supermind, from the night, you see. So, mind of night, I will say, is that mind which receives all the possibilities and potentialities and forces of the night herself, you see. Higher forces working in the material creation. They see the bottom of the difficulties. It is indeed at the bottom's voiceless call. It is indeed at the body's voiceless call. Savitri experienced that pain because she heard the body's voiceless call in her bosom. She found the ache. At the body's voiceless call, that Savitri stirs up and becomes aware of the godlike pain. He who stares into space, who with eyes seeing grief's timeless depths, but who does not see life's goal. With that body's voiceless call received, Savitri is poised to do the occult yogic sacrifice. Sacrifice to see the life's goal. That goal is reached and she is going to do the sacrifice under the eternal hand. So, this change of mind of night, the phrase is very significant from that angle, you see. And this happened in 1942, after that experience of supramental light entering into his soul.
Can we consider that mind is the obstacle? Mind in general is the obstacle.
Mind in general?
Mind is the obstacle. You say
mind is a kind of a rigid, very rigid instrument. Mind is an intermediate step.
Yeah.
But if you get stuck with the intermediate step, then it will become an obstacle.
So it becomes mind of night.
No, not yet. No, our mind is a fairly advanced mind now.
But still, cutting things in pieces, not separating everything. Our mind, even intellectual mind, even buddhi.
No, our mind actually is a much evolved state. In fact, now it is able to open to higher spiritual powers.
So,
Not all of them, but there are spiritual powers which can enter into our being. In fact, even higher powers, even the supramental powers, in the case of Sri Aurobindo, he was trying to bring it down directly into the physical. Mind, there was no problem for him. It was very easy for him to bring supermind in the mind.
but mind has many layers.
Yes, of course, mind goes all the way from the spiritual mind ranging from higher mind, intuition,
Oh, yes.
over mind. These are the spiritual ranges of mind. You see, higher mind, illumined mind, intuition, and over mind. These are the ranges of spiritual mind. These are the ranges of spiritual mind.
Human being is stuck in buddhi, manas, bodhicitta.
That is in the physical part.
That's in the physical.
Yeah.
What you say, physical
Yeah.
mind, you include this.
Yeah, but in the cosmic manifestation, you had these 4 layers already: higher mind, illumined mind, intuition, and overmind. They all belong to the spiritual mind, but they're all below the supermind in the lower hemisphere. They are at the top of the lower hemisphere is the overmind. Still, it is a part of ignorance. The lower hemisphere is a part of ignorance.
Overmind also?
Huh?
Part of ignorance, overmind?
Overmind also a part of ignorance. Yes, it knows the multiplicity, but it does not know the unity.
But the gods are there.
Yeah, so what? They are there. Is God is fighting with other God? Yeah, well, of course they do.
Lower pathetic.
Yeah, yes. And all these religions which have come up are because of that.
So we can say, sorry. So we can say that mind of mind is mostly buddhi,
No. You see,
physical mind.
look, you see, the mother says very clearly that before mind entered into inconscience, from the void things are coming up, before mind entered into inconscience was very plastic, very pliable, very moldable, very moldable. But the moment mind, it became rigid, it became fixed, it became firm. It became firm. And that was necessary. Because whatever was coming out of the inconscience, if it has to survive the power of the void swallowing everything, there has to be some kind of a firmness somewhere. So mind of night, in a sense, was playing a positive role that it would not allow things which are emerging to go into the void. So that is why the inconscience, which was very pliable, plastic, elastic, and all that kind of thing, it became very rigid, firm, stiff with the mind. This is the mind of night. This is the mind of night, you see, exactly. And the whole problem, therefore, is pinned down now to the mind of night. Right at the beginning, the second line itself, third line, across the path of divine event, Deus forwarding mind of night. The whole problem of transformation is kind of gathered, quintessence in that one single phrase. The difficulty across the manifestation is this mind of night. Yes, mind of night was necessary in the early process of evolution, but now that is becoming an obstacle and it has got to be changed.
Can we say that this mind of mind is a physical mind?
Physical mind of the inconscience.
Physical mind.
Yeah, yes, obviously. Physical mind. It's not physical mind, it's physical mind. Physical mind, is a dull, stupid kind of a mind. Yeah. Physical mind is a different thing. Physical mind. The mind of the cells themselves. The mind of matter itself. The mind of matter. Because it is there. You see, mind is there. Life is there in matter. Mind is there in matter. Even supermind is there in matter, you see. But Lord.
It is this one.
It is that. Yeah. So that is a very important thing. So that is why very in the third line he has quintessence the whole problem. What is the difficulty in making the divine advance progress? The difficulty lies in this mind of night. And that became explicit in the 1942 draft of Savitri, you see. The preciseness of problem is present here, you see. And Savitri is reviewing now the whole thing. He is waking up, you see.